Welcome back inside the Parisi Palace, high above 2919 East Broadway. This is hour number 2 of the Jake Feinberg Show. It's been a whirlwind already today with Jabo Starks, and Mike Clark, and Bill Vitt, and it's only going to get better. Dig the bass. The East Bay grease that was hopping in and out of Vietnamese restaurants in Oakland as my guest plays a reality fender. Locking the groove like Bob Cranshaw, helping swing the band with David Garibaldi, whose big band background helped drive Tower of Power. Of course, it's deeper than that. It always is, and my guest is too modest to call attention to himself. If anything, he encourages cats to play their own bass lines rather than his. Be yourself and don't change horses in midstream because you got cats like Kuptka blowing over the top of low-end bass grooves by my guest, whose work was frequented quite often by radio host Voco, or on the vaunted San Francisco label. When this host started listening to music closely around the turn of the century, the first melodic groove music that attracted me was the band Tower of Power. They symbolized music that came out of the community and was supported by the community. As companies discovered how to monetize music, they sucked the soul right out of it. My guest still tours with the Great Tower, but in 2 weeks, they might play 14 different venues. Those are the transient times we live in. Rocco Prestia, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hey, how you doing?
Nice to hear you, brother. How are you?
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you, man. Hey, I wanted you to ask you, we just had two great Bay Area drummers on, Mike Clark and Billy Vitt. Did you play with Mike Clark in Reality Sandwich at all?
I did not, but I have played with him. I couldn't tell you when. Actually, he was actually going to play on my solo album, and we just couldn't work it out. But yeah, I know Mike from way back. Way back.
Yeah. No, Rocco, I wanted to talk to you a little bit. I was blown away. I was listening back to one of my interviews with Garibaldi, and he basically, this is your rhythm partner for decades, and he said that everything essentially that comes from you is intuitive. It comes from inside of you. You don't care about the D minor 7th chord. Tell me a little bit about this intuitive groove pocket. How did you develop such good intuitive groove?
Okay. Well, me and Dave, we come from opposite ends of the spectrum. He's very well schooled, very disciplined, and he comes from that side, and I come from completely the other side of, I don't really know a whole lot about music, and, the bass kind of picked me. I didn't pick it, I started out as a guitar player. And, I don't know, it's just, when I listen to what's going on with the rhythm section, I listen to what it feels like overall. I don't necessarily pick it apart. So whatever that is, that's how I approach it. I don't give it a whole lot of thought. But as far as the chords and stuff, yeah, I need to know what the chords are, just so I know which notes to stay away from.
No, I love this because I'm a non-musician, and I don't know anything about theory, to my daughter's dismay. And to sort of come across someone like you, some people say, yeah, I learned everything by ear. I was never, musically trained. But to know that somebody just had impeccable time, and really, I'm just going to read the quote from Garibaldi himself. He said, James Jamerson was one of Rocco's favorite bass players. Rocco has a neat ability to feel music, play with a drummer. He doesn't have a lot of knowledge. He's very intuitive. He could care less what a D minor 7th chord is. He has a very unique technique. It's nothing like what you were taught in school. And what you just said to me, where you listen to the rhythm section overall. You don't pick it apart. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's just what it feels like. It's in other words, a lot of guys approach they got to hit certain notes with the bass drum or with the snare and the cymbal or this and that and the other. And I don't pick it apart quite like that. I look at what he plays overall, and then I just try to, tuck myself into it. And, 9 times out of 10, I'm hitting with him in all the right places. But I don't think about it that way. It's more about what it feels like.
How did the bass pick you?
Well, I joined the band as a guitar player when I was 14. And we used to have a guy come in and show us the latest stuff, weekly. And he would analyze each player, right? And when it came around to me, I played about 3 chords, and I didn't play those very well.
Right.
And he looked at me and he said, yeah, you play bass, okay? So they went down and they got a bass at the local music store, and that's how it happened. And we basically learned how to play music as we went. It wasn't like we were all great musicians at that time, or really knew a whole lot about anything. And it just evolved, and then we got hip to soul music and started adding horns, and that's when Doc came in and Mick Gillette and Skip Mesquite, and it just went from there.
I just want to make sure I heard that you joined Tower of Power when you were 14.
Yeah, it wasn't Tower of Power then. It was called the Extension 5.
The Extension 5. Already, Rocco dropping new now. The Extension 5. Man, what? How? Okay, here's the thing. That innocence, not knowing anything, how did you think that do you think that enhanced not just the sonic quality of the music, but also the creativity of the music by the fact that there weren't curriculums, there weren't jazz schools, there was nothing out there?
I guess to an extent, yeah. I guess the really first one who came in the band that was really, really schooled, I would guess, would be Doc,
Mm-hmm.
He was trained, he played oboe before he played Barry, So, and then Dave came in and like I said, Mick and Skip, and all those guys were pretty well schooled as well. So I guess, all I know is that when you put it all together, it works, And I guess having the freedom to let it out and explore that, and that's how everything kind of developed, because it all evolved. And that's how, me being able to play with a band for so long enabled me to develop the way I play, So,
going back. No, it's perfect. Going back to the original thesis about it's like in today's touring world versus back when you guys first started, you might have an engagement for a week at a time. Or can you tell me a little bit about when Garibaldi joined the band, like on a tour, how long you would stay in a city for, how many nights you would play, and then and how that might help bring the community out so that they would know who Tower of Power was, just juxtaposing that to today where you might be on a 2-week tour, but you're playing 14 cities in 14 days.
Right. But God, I hope we don't do that kind of tour.
Maybe 11 venues.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It is a grueling schedule, no question about it. It's the travel that really wears you out. It's not the gig, But, back in the day, we played clubs and we'd play for a week at a time at a club, and we would bounce from club to club in the area. Now, we still do some clubs like we'll do like Jazz Alley up in Seattle, or even Vegas. At the South Point. We'll do 3 days there, and so we still do some of that. But yeah, when you get out there, it's you're bumping from city to city, and if you're not working, you're traveling. So it's it can get pretty hectic.
Did you? Can you talk to the audience a little bit? So, all of it is with Rocco Prestia. Is most of it's feel and listening. How much?
By the way, I got a terrible ear. I have a good ear for playing music. As far as hearing chords and things, it's terrible.
I can't. This is the greatest.
Fifths and thirds. It's really weird.
Was there ever a crisis? And you're telling me there was never any issue? Because I'm listening back to David Rubinson basically saying that Emilio's brother had to get his act together, or he was out of the band in 6 months, and then they brought Garibaldi. And you're telling me there was never a crisis point with Rocco as the bass player in Tower?
As far as
just not needing to get his act together?
Oh, no, there have been times like that, absolutely. Not musically.
Sure.
Very bad choices in my life.
Well, no. I'm talking music, yeah, because this was a matter of Rubinson was saying, if you want to cut an album, we need a better drum.
No.
Yeah, wow.
Never musically, no.
I love it. Because so much of my show is intuitive, man. That's why I get off on. You're really one of the most innocent. How many hours would you practice? Would you practice a lot?
Well, that's another thing. I never practice. I never have. It bores me. It really seriously bores me.
Mm-hmm.
If I have an idea, I might sit down and work it out for a second, but 5 minutes, I'm done. It's just, like I said, it's just really boring to me.
Who are some of the, you were marinating in the East Bay, so much activity out there, in the early 70s and late 60s. And great time to be, in the Bay Area. And considering that you, clearly are one of the more unorthodox cats I've talked to. Were there other cats that you would like jazz upright bass players or guys that not even from the local scene, but when they came to town, you wanted to check them out because you got off on how unique their style was?
There were so many cats there. There was Larry Graham. There was Paul Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Jackson I love because he's very creative. I love the way he plays. Who played with Mike Clark,
Of course.
Yeah. And like I said, there was just so many great cats, and there was a lot of good cats that just that you never heard of. Just right there in the Bay Area. It was, and when if anybody came through, I remember we did that Fillmore show with Aretha Franklin, that Aretha Franklin Alive.
Oh, boy.
And all those cats that played, Joe Jamont, Bernard Purdy, Cornell Dupree, Billy Fred. It was just a slew, King Curtis. It was unbelievable, so, and to play on that show as well, what a treat. We used to go see, like, the Four Tops, when they would come through. I remember we went to see, what's his name? I can't even think of his name right now. But, if certain people came through, we would go out of our way to go see them, absolutely.
Can you talk about the scene in Vegas now? Obviously, when Tower of Power is on tour, you're doing that, but what kind of local stuff are you doing in and around Vegas?
Absolutely nothing. This is where I live. Man.
Okay.
I don't get involved with the local scene. I go out and see a couple of people. There's Jerry Lopez and there's Lon Bronson. Those are the local cats that, that they have a conglomerate of musicians that play in the big shows around town, and those are probably the two best things going on here. But it's not what it used to be. I mean, it's just not,
Mm-hmm. How is it not?
Well, it's so corporate run now, for musicians. There's just not a lot of places to play, not the locals anyway.
When you say corporate, can you explain to my generation?
Well, it's just the way Vegas is run now, as opposed to when the mob had it.
Right. No, I've been doing it. This is so. How did
everybody I talk to says, we wish the mob would come back.
Yeah, I used to, when I was a kid growing up in the 80s, I was seeing all this crackdown on the mob, and I it was played off as like, these heinous characters, but those guys loved nightclubs, they loved jazz, they know how to make it work. Yeah. Did you ever play any like at any point in your career any of the strip clubs in the Tenderloin or anything? What was the wildest gig Rocco Prestia ever played on?
Oh God. Oh.
I mean, 20-minute jams while they were. I mean, because that was a great gig for musicians in almost every urban center.
Yeah, I don't think we actually played in a strip club, but I remember we played in a couple of these places where they had like dancers and stuff, or you had to go through the club, get to the club, as it were. You go through the strip club to where the gig was, things like that. But never just out and out strip club. No.
Right. Never had the dancers calling out tunes for you to play or anything.
Well, we used to have the go-go dancers, at Frenchie's in Hayward. They had the go-go cages and stuff like that.
Can you paint that? Can you paint that scene for me?
Well, the Frenchie's was in Hayward, and the band started in Fremont before we migrated to Oakland. And the big deal was, boy, if we could just play Frenchies, that's where, like Sly used to play there, and people like that, and it was like, wow, man, if we could get there, we made it, So, and then we finally got there, Cold Blood used to be around, and they were there too, but that was like the place to play, you walk in this big old club, and in the back, the stage, and then you got the go-go girls, and, it was just, the place to play,
Rocco, if you could put it in your own words, not the legacy, but it's so hard for younger cats now that they develop their own chops, or they get schooled, but it's really hard to stay in the same working band for any period of time.
It is. Yeah, go ahead.
That's the times we live in. I mean, and I just was, but yet there are cats out there that are as hungry as ever, and they might be garage doing, just trying to figure it out. What would be, I mean, if you were talking to a quartet of younger cats, what would be your advice for longevity?
Keep your ego in check.
Right. Give an example of keeping your ego in check. How did Prestia keep his ego in check?
Well, we recorded a lot of albums in the 70s, and we were making a living traveling. At that time, most of us were drug addicts and alcoholics and so on. So you just was just kind of going through it, and then people started to recognize who we were and so on, and they said, man, you guys are doing something special and so on, because as far as we were just doing it,
Sure.
And I never thought it. I never really gave it a lot of thought, and then, people started bringing attention to it, and then I started kind of looking back at it and say, well, yeah, I guess it is pretty cool, but I don't know. There's so many great players out there. I mean, I think you have to keep yourself in an even state of mind. You know, it's not about being the best or being the fastest or being this or being that. There's room for all of it. You know, there's just so much great talent out there. And, you know, and if you look at it that way, then, you know, you keep yourself humble and, you know, that's my best advice, and learn to play well with others, you know.
Well, I was going to say, it's about the good of the whole, the good of the whole,
it is,
right?
It is, absolutely. And, you know, there's a lot of cats that, you know, they use, you know, their experience in a situation, like being with a group or something, until something better comes along. You know, they're not dedicated to that, you know. So, I mean, and there's a lot of cats like that out there, you know, and if that's what they want to do, so be it, you know. But if you really want to dig in and create something as a unit, you know, you gotta make those kind of sacrifices, you know.
Rocco, I just was like, you know, I know you're a deep cat, and I wanted to ask you, one of the L's on my show is love, and I wanted to ask you about how you give love to people, and how Rocco brings love not just to the bandstand, but to the world, as you have been doing with your music and who you are for the last, you know, 40, 50 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different kind of question. Well, I never quite looked at it like that. You know, I try to be, I try to play, when I'm playing, I try to go after each tune lightly and without going through the motions. You know, it's like I'm just trying to get it right, that's all. You know, and I approach it from an honest standpoint. I mean, if, you know, I don't make a big deal out of me making mistakes and stuff like that. I mean, I'll laugh it off more than anything. And as far as the public, I mean, I just try to make myself available, because I know that there are fans out there, and there are people that really want to, you know, get close to you and, you know, not necessarily touch you, but, you know, they do want to touch you sometimes.
Sure.
But they definitely want to meet you and talk to you, you know, so I try to make myself available, you know, as much as I can for that.
Well, Rocco, can you? When is the next tour coming up for Tower of Power?
Well, we got a couple of one-offs coming up and stuff like that. I'd have to look at the schedule.
Well, I'm gonna get you guys to come down to Tucson, Arizona, so you can, you know, so I can reach out and touch you a little and find you down here.
Be fabulous, yeah.
And I really appreciate you, just your contributions and, quite frankly, your style. I mean, my show is completely unorthodox, and your style's not unorthodox, but just your command and mastery of the instrument, and the way you've gone about it, to you seems completely easy because it's intuitive, but it's not. And so, mad props to you, brother, and just keep it real, and one day we'll shake hands real soon, okay?
That'd be great, man. Thank you very much.
All right, brother. We'll be right back on the Jake Fine.